that particular link, ladies and gentlemen. We had just started to talk about the divisive elections, the perennial problem we have been witnessing, and whether time is ripe or whether we are ready, let me use that, whether we are ready as a country to have peaceful, tear gas-free, chaos-free elections in this particular country. I cited the example of the recent by-elections in Kabuchai, in Matungu, in Nakuru, and what came forth after those by-elections, the scuffle that we witnessed, and just sort of asking whether, even if we are having this hope that the BBI initiative will solve this problem of divisive elections, are we ready to conduct ourselves in that manner? And you had just started responding to that. I'm not quite sure whether, Job, you had an opportunity to also tell me what you read from that. But as you do that also, let's take this forward, post-2022, in the event that, yes, the referendum has come and gone, assuming we've passed the BBI because of what is centered in it to address the problem of divisive elections, and the elections are disputed, and we find ourselves in a similar scenario like in 2017, in 2007. Where does this leave us then? What will the BBI process have solved?
Yeah, if I may start it from where you left it a bit. The electoral reforms part of the BBI, in my view, has not been tackled very well. Of course, the other issues that cause violence have been dealt with. That is not the winner take all. You can have a position, you can candidate of opposition and all that. But how to reform that electoral body is still divisive. You remember in the task force recommendation, even the very first one, even the first of BBI 2 had been a proposal which is supported by ODM, where commissioners are selected by parties. But that was not very palatable to, for instance, Ruto and to sections of Jubilee that support the president. And it was removed. Very controversially, by the way, because it was already in BBI 2. So somewhere along the night,
it just disappeared.
It disappeared. Now, those are some of the things which are very dangerous. The thing disappeared after it had been agreed on by the task force. My view, despite what Kriegler recommended about professionalization of the IBC must be professionalized, but the commissioners, in my view, needs to be selected by people who are playing the game. If there was a commissioner currently who was appointed by ODM, one was appointed by ANC, one was appointed by Jubilee, one was appointed by UDA, that nonsense in Matungu would not have happened. That nonsense in Kabuchai would not have happened. They would have said, no, this election is not an election, let's stop it. But because they are a professional body who are supposed to be independent, but we all know that everybody has a choice. And if, in fact, in a system where there are people who are playing from the deep, they could even be coerced by forces who are not overt, then they can make mistakes like what they did. So I still recommend that when this thing goes to Parliament, there's supposed to be some IBC bill or some elections bill in Parliament. Let them consider players from Parliament and outside, maybe civil society and religious bodies or whatever. Let each of those players be given a leeway to appoint a commissioner, so that we all know they are partisan, but a collective will of those commissioners will be to the good of everybody.
So that we are clear on the independence.
We are clear on that
Let's
independence.
be clear.
Yes, because this independence is theoretical. It's never independent. Yeah, all these people have their choice. But the Secretariat can be very independent, in the sense that they are given standard operation procedures, they are given some governance structures, which are defined by the policy making, which are the commissioners, on what they need to do. What do you call a clean election? How do you operate when you are found in a situation where police came and chased away everybody from a polling station? So those SOPs should actually be set. So moving to 2022, I think electoral reforms become very key. And he always missed the boat. Kriegler had always recommended that we need to do these things 2 years with elections. Yeah, because even this new team needs to learn these things, they need to set them up. At this rate, we are going to have new commissioners probably in December 2021. These guys have 3 months to prepare for elections. It may be chaotic. In fact, it's calling for disaster. If it doesn't become chaotic, is a miracle. So I recommend that these people, the BBI team, Parliament, and whoever else is on this, the electoral reforms becomes very key. Other than all those other sweeteners have done, electoral reforms, if they don't do it well, and you have a body which cannot do what it needs to do, then we are going to be in trouble. So 2022 portends a problem if we don't reform IBC, that's number one. And number two, if all the other actors, like Lydia said, all those other actors who are given state authority to deal with the malfeasance, police, the OPP, the Office of the DPP, and the rest, if they don't play the way they're supposed to play, then this thing will go back to the people. Now, if the people are given the choice to decide whether their candidates has won or not, then it becomes very partisan, and we can get into chaos. Yes.
Do we even can we even have a scenario where people can agree that they lost fairly? You know, what will it take for us to get there? But
in 2002 we did. It's possible.
In 2013.
Yes.
After the presidential petition.
Because we had IPPG, PNU, that time it was DP and all the parties nominated people to the commissioner, to the ECK. So your people are in there, and they ensure that whatever they do together is the right thing. So you get some semblance of trust with what comes out of that. And that's what we need to go to. This issue of professionals, it doesn't work at that commission level. It can work at the secretariat, but not at the commission.
It has not worked for us.
It hasn't worked for us.
All right. So let's go back to the basics. And even as we're looking towards finding a solution to this, what then do you think has been the biggest contributor to divisive elections in this country, Lydia?
I think it's the sense of exclusion. So that we have a way of governing in this country where when ule MC amechaguliwa, when they are doing projects or they're doing even activities at the community level, they will focus on the areas, the villages, where majority of their votes came from. And the people from the other sides, they'll get to them when they get to them. Yeah? MPs do the same. I don't know if you've maybe picked up some, chatter around things like Uwezo Fund, where the members of parliament are patrons. If your constituency is not one of those ones that really supported, your ward or your area is not the ones that supported the governor, or the MP, you'll find that there's a sense in which that their backs are kind of turned on you in some type of way. And that's something that the president was really trying to fight when he became president. And he said, you will not box me in Mount Kenya just because I come from Mount Kenya. I am not a president for Mount Kenya. And he ended up really making sure that resources are really distributed across the country. Projects are done everywhere. Roads are built everywhere. Institutions, TVETs and what are resourced from everywhere. And that's the kind of governance that we need. But be that as it may, what that has created is a sense of, if our person loses, we are out. We are not just out in the sense of governing, we are out in the sense that we will see no development for the next 5 years. So that perception has sat deeply within us. And so when we see our person has not won, even though we kind of trust the commission, everything has been done even to make sure this commission is perfect, the police have done an exceptional job, everybody does their jobs perfectly, that sense of, I will not be considered in development discourse, our constituency will not be funded, our county will never get money, this road we've been waiting for 10 years will not get built, that sense of we will be excluded is what now pushes people to be like, we don't care what the IBC has said. As we know that this thing has been rigged, that person is not our MP, that person is not our president, that person is not our whatever. And that is why, for me, it's about how we lead, how people lead when they are in offices. We have to remember that when we are elected, we are leaders now for all of the people, the ones who voted for us and the ones who did not vote for us. Now, if we are able to do that, we will, over time, over a period of time, perhaps 2 elections, 3, 4, create that sense of security that even if my person doesn't win, it is going to be okay. Because even last time, my person didn't win and we still got this road. That our person didn't win and we still got this and we still got that. And if we get to a place where we govern with that level of sobriety and integrity, I think we'll be able to maneuver ourselves and change the perceptions that we have that if a person is not there, we are out, and so we must fight, so that hata kama ni handshake, at least tutakuwa kwa meza tukichukua some things for ourselves, by forcing a handshake or forcing a consensus government or forcing some kind of arrangement with the person that we wanted, so that we're not left out. That's something we have to cultivate over a period of time. Yeah.
All right. Job, from where you said, because also BBI captures in one of the 9 points, there is that point of national responsibility. I want you to talk to us about that, because I find it important in a country where it's always been serikali. This is reverse. Talk to us about that national responsibility. What is it all about? What is it that I need to know as my role for this particular country?
No, we need to know that we are Kenyan. We need to be patriotic. We need to defend the Katiba. We need to act as Kenyans in manners that promote Ukenya. That is really the essence. Let all our actions promote Ukenya. And when it promotes Ukenya, those of us who get lucky to be in leadership should also behave in a manner that we decided as wananchi to prescribe for a good leader. Yeah, we have set some standards of what a good leader is in Chapter 6. We expected the MPs to pass a nice bill and an act which further gave way to Chapter 6, which unfortunately they didn't do because they know they're usually the first people to mess around with that. So let's behave in that manner that promotes the Constitution, the manner that promotes unity as one, in a manner that makes me responsible. Whatever action and freedom I enjoy under this Constitution, even the current one or even the BBI one, is I enjoy it without infringing on your right as well. So all these things combined will give us a good governance structure. For instance, like what Lydia is saying, currently you become a leader, you have some resources. Typically, most of those resources are used to further two things. One, to further your own benefit, and two, for the benefit of your next election. That's really how resources are used in this country. And that's very responsible. That's not what our Katiba says, because those resources are not yours. You are just a steward of those resources on behalf of the majority. The next thing is that the Constitution recognizes that we are diverse. Yes, I can come from County X and come from County Y and I have my culture. Yeah, let us promote that culture. In fact, they have this 26th December, which is supposed to be a day of promoting our cultures. But as we promote our cultures, let us know that our commonness, this culture thing, it's good for my tribe and my region and yours. But Kenya is good for us all. So as we do our small cultures, let us act in a manner that is good for Kenya as a whole country. So my beliefs and traditions and my values down to my tribe are okay, but I should not do them either to belittle other systems, beliefs, values of that tribe, or to bring down that Utu that we are trying to bring through based on the 2010 Katiba. And the BBI is really stressing that. They call it national ethos. It's a very big thing, and they have listed all sorts of things, from our education system to how we behave in public. There are a lot of things that we need to do to inculcate that national ethos that we require as a nation. Yes.
I think that is something we have not really focused on before. This is something new that is being brought forth by the BBI. We're just about to wrap up, but I'd like us to address some few issues, some few concerns. One of them include the fact that some, sort of have been concerned about the role of the opposition in this handshake arrangement. Do we even still have that role, and could we be missing something as a country, Lydia? Yes, we want to work and walk together as one bloc, but are we sort of downplaying the role of the opposition in our current governance?
I think our society as a country, we've evolved to a point where we sort of get they're called the dissenting voices. You still get the dissenting voices, even if you do not necessarily have something called the official opposition. I mean, you've seen recently when the partnership between Kenya and Britain was signed, agreed upon by the executive, and it went to Parliament for vetting. And you saw farmers, independent players out there, people who export flour, these things, and coming out and saying, there's a problem with this agreement, and they lobbied Parliament, and Parliament had to, screech the brakes on that. So I think we are caught up with sort of like a definition or a particular, actor being the official opposition. We do have dissenting voices that are always, coming up. We have a very strong strong articulation of the issue of public participation in the Constitution, and the judiciary has reinforced it. If today you pass any law, any policy, any guideline, anything that you did not take through public participation that you can demonstrate, then you're going to have somebody can be able to object to that even in High Court and have that quashed. So to that extent, we are no longer, sort of at the behest of having an official opposition, and necessarily we are able to have that public participation, and the dissenting voices are able to actually push back on a policy or on a decision without necessarily being the official opposition. Certainly, we would do much better with an official opposition, but remember, I think we miss that antagonism that it creates. That almost gridlocking of everything and anything, people opposing for the sake of opposing. Just because government has said this, they will say that. Just because government has said that, they'll say this. So which is not productive. And I think that's where we had gotten to, where it's a matter of, wanataka hii, tumekataa. Oh, wanataka ingine, okay, na sisi tumerudi na huku. So it was always like even not healthy, not productive, not constructive. So perhaps maybe going forward post-BBI, where we have now the office of the official opposition that is well-resourced, it's got the technical capacity to do research, it's got, the back end, of the shadow cabinet ministers and all that. Perhaps then, when it is well-facilitated like that, we can have now a constructive pushback on, on government policy and all that. But I think for now, we are still okay. I don't think we've lost the voice of dissent. It's still very much vibrant within the Kenyan nation and the public participation spaces that we have.
I'd like to move to another issue, Job, on the sustainability of this handshake journey. These are the same politicians who have made coalitions before, they've entered into political agreements before, and what do they call it? I'm trying to think of that is it?
MOU.
MOU, yeah.
The famous thing.
Yeah, so, and very few of them usually see light of day. How then can Wanjiku be affirmed and reaffirmed that this is different? What makes the handshake different?
Well, because the handshake has a product which will be glued on, like we said earlier, constitutional reform, legislative actions, administrative and policy issues. So there are some institutional and systemic things that the handshake has proposed, but if you look at the program of action, we are not there yet. Even once we pass the BBI, there will be several months of actions required by government, by Parliament, by we citizens, for us to fully actionalize what the BBI says. So, to the people who are asking, the idea is that it will no longer be what Raila and Uhuru wanted. It will be what our Kenyan governance structure dictates. If, for instance, it is put in law that Parliament is going to have 2/3 gender, it will happen.
That happened in the 2010 Constitution.
Yes, but the 2010 had a provision to leave politicians again to make something. What we have learned in this country is that never leave politicians a window to actualize something which is required by the Wananchi.
All right.
Yeah, once you get opportunity, the Wananchi in the Katiba, put it there that it is done.
We've come to the end of this conversation. I'd like to give you 30 seconds each for your final remarks as we wind up. Lydia?
My final remarks have to do with reflections on yesterday when we had International Women's Day. And as we talk about this BBI and the post-BBI and coalitions and all those kinds of things, it's important that going forward we look out for these arrangements to have women at the center and at the front. I was just sharing the other day that this team they're trying to form with Mudavadi and Kalonzo and that entire group of people, and even if Raila and Uhuru and whoever decide to form a coalition, can they make sure that we see women in those arrangements that they have, so that we all really do feel included and represented. Let's see intergenerationalness in those arrangements and coalitions that are being built, because it is the women and it is the young people who really have made sure that this BBI has passed in those county assemblies. They're stakeholders. They're expected to pass it. They're expected again to participate in the elections. Let us see them really at the front and center of these arrangements.
All right, thank you, Lydia. Job?
For me, there is something which is not very talked about on the BBI, what they call shared prosperity. This is a chance for all the regions to find out what is best in their regions that can give economic output. We always talk about what can the government give us, but we rarely talk about what can we give to the society. So the BBI, shall it come to pass, all our leaders, and in fact all of us, should look at that section whereby we try to grow value, to generate value from our regions. If our region is good in fishing, let's generate value there. If our region is good in mining, let's generate value there. If it is good in pastoralism, let's generate value there, so that the whole country can contribute more to this kitty that everybody wants to share, rather than always waiting to share, but we don't contribute to it equally. Thank you.
I don't know, in the next few months coming, as we wait for the referendum, what would you like to tell Kenyans to think about to really inform their decision on the BBI process? What is it that should we focus on as Wanjiku?
We should focus, first of all, we should focus on what touches on our lives at a personal level. If you have your ward MCA, having some resources that can resolve some small things like a pothole in the neighborhood, that can very easily be able to facilitate a dispensary or a clinic that is nearby where children can go and get their cough medication or something like that. Those are the things that we should consider. And if BBI you find that is delivering those things to you, then that is important, to pass. For women, look at the space that has been expanded in terms of decision making. Look at the Senate. It's now going to be 50% male, 50% female. We have never had women equalized in any institution in this country until now. And that means that women will have the room to determine how the resources, how much resources going to their counties, and perhaps even how those resources are spent. Prioritize areas that have kept women behind, such as water, childcare, and those kinds of things. And so I think people should look at the BBI from their perspective, where they sit, what matters to them, and really look in the BBI, is there something for me in here? And if it is there, vote yes. If you don't find anything useful to you as a person, then you can, keep your mind open and try to, keep the noise, the political noise about Prime Minister and 5 positions a little bit at bay. Look at it from your own perspective, at the family level, at the community level, and see if there's something that is coming to you directly, then definitely it is something good for you.
Ujite mkutano.
Ujite mkutano, uangalie kitu.
Job.
No, it's very well said from Lydia.
Yes,
it has to be
personal.
What is it for me? Then coming out from you, that's when you can look at other things. So if this thing does not help you in any way as a Kenyan, then say no. But if there is something there, and there are a lot of things, for sure, if I may pigia debe, there are a lot of things there that are very good for us as a nation. I talked of shared prosperity. I've talked of looking at how we can generate more from our regions. I've talked of how this money that we all contribute to in one way or the other. Now, a lot of it comes back to us. Not a lot. Some of it comes back to us. In fact, we need to get even more to us. Now, if we can take that and using your responsibility as a person, wherever you are, holding your leader to account and trying to influence how that resource which the leader has and is a steward of to help you, then we are good.
Can you perhaps have a multi-choice? That there has been a proposal for that. Is it even realistic? I may not be entirely against BBI, but I may not be entirely for BBI. Is there a possibility and room for having a multi-choice?
The BBI is something you call a political consensus document, where some people took something, others got something, others had to cede something. So it was sort of like a give and take. If you give these ones this one, also give these other ones this one, so that there's some kind of balance. If you open it up for people to make a multi-choice. You will defeat that consensus sense of the document. So it has got to be a yes or a no. You take the good with the bad and you take the bad with the good, so that everybody, because what you might think is bad is perhaps what I had to concede. You know, I had to concede it for someone else to get, so I could get the good that I wanted. So I think it's impossible for you to separate. Remember also, if you have it separated, you could have a clause pass that requires another one to be implemented, right? So you might have, for example, the women in the Senate, right? You think that's really good, so you approve that one. But then you go and say, I don't want many people, you know, in leadership, so me, I'm rejecting this additional, I don't know, parliament number of 300 and something. So if you do that, you will have defeated the, you know, the Senate numbers. And so if you open it up like that, you'd have to like take all Kenyans through a master's degree, you know, in law development and it's just not going to work.
Understand.
Yeah, so I think it's not practical to expect the BBI to be split into portions.
You share the same sentiment?
Yes, it's not practical, and in fact, you will take a week voting if all those clauses are to put into multi-choice. Take a week voting, and tallying will become so difficult. Again, it's also a lazy argument by those who oppose the BBI. Nothing stopped them like a Kuru court did. If there are some things they are really dear about, they could have gone out and started another process. This time they were saying no to this one of Raila and Uhuru, if we call it so. They will have also gone ahead and did theirs. We will be having 2 bills, for instance, on whatever the referendum will be. But it was a lazy argument. Referendum choices are difficult. It's logistically hard and mathematically difficult.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for creating time for us. Lydia, Mathia, a political strategist, thank you for creating time, and Ndege, governance and leadership expert.